North Carolina lawmakers are considering ways to boost access to broadband service. Some of their ideas mirror those promoted by John Sanders. He's Senior Fellow in Regulatory Studies and Research Editor at the John Locke Foundation. John, we're going to talk a little bit about some of this legislation, but first, you have been researching this issue of broadband access and put forward some basic recommendations that lawmakers ought to keep in mind. What are your basic recommendations?
Sure. My basic recommendations are based in the fact that we are in a race, basically, against all these other states. The federal government is sending lots of money to North Carolina and elsewhere to expand broadband to unserved areas. So for North Carolina, I think that the major policy focus should be on the issues of pole attachments. In that regards, whether if a utility pole needs to be replaced when a broadband entity is attaching, then the costs need to be borne fairly among not just the broadband entity, but for, they would have to replace it if it weren't for the fact that the utility is making this attachment. So in that case, that the cost should be the reasonable cost, not having to pay for an entirely new pole, but for the net book value of that pole. That would lower the cost and lower uncertainty about costs, and so it would allow for speedier provision. It would allow for the different types of utilities in North Carolina can charge different rates. The major utilities, the Dukes and Dominion, they are covered by Section 224 of federal law, which means they have this cable attachment rate that has been upheld in courts from the Supreme Court on down to the North Carolina Business Court as fair, just, and reasonable. So that has not been attached to electric municipal corporations or the municipals, electric membership corporations or the municipal utilities. And so I recommend that they be held to the same standard so that it eliminates some of the uncertainty and also would speed it along. And then finally, I would require that the North Carolina Utilities Commission expedite any kind of pole attachment disputes in these unserved areas.
Now, your recommendations, which, as you mentioned, really regard pole attachments, some of these are mirrored in at least one piece of legislation that's on the table now, this Senate Bill 689. Tell us why this particular bill, among the various broadband bills, is one that has piqued your interest.
Well, it's piqued my interest because several of the things that I've promoted are, in fact, in there, and it seems to respect the urgency that I think the state should have regarding this, because it's not just that we need to speed up and get these unserved areas attached to broadband, especially in light of COVID and the fallout from the political decisions made and people changing where they're working from home more, where they are being able to do telehealth, especially school, online schooling, but also these resources to expand and build these areas are flowing to where it makes the most sense. And if we can have a cost environment that's more certain and secure, then it will make more sense to come to North Carolina than these other states. So resources will come here first to build, as opposed to waiting until it starts to make sense for North Carolina.
So that is Senate Bill 689. There are some other proposals out there. There's a Senate Bill 517. There's something called the Fiber NC Act that is in both House Bill 384 and Senate Bill 547. You still have some questions about a lot of these pieces of legislation.
Yes, especially the Fiber NC Act. There are two different versions, and of the two, I'm more supportive of a version that upholds what was the level playing field law from 2011, which was put in to avoid the mistakes done in early municipal broadband bills, where basically city residents were paying taxes through other utilities to fund broadband expansion. And there's also the concern of exclusivity, where in either of the bills, the cities would be allowed to build broadband facilities to lease to a private company. In one version, it sounds like it would be for lease to just a single particular company. In the other version, it sounds like they would have to be able to lease to any company that fits the measure. So it's not just a single company. Other companies could also attach.
So still a number of questions about
Yes.
these pieces of legislation.
And the worry about residents having to pay taxes to support it.
As you have been working on this issue, some people have contacted you and said, why are you worried about this broadband stuff? Why not focus on wireless technology instead? Why not?
That's a very fair question. And as I've told these people, it's because the state has done a pretty good job in the last few years in expanding the law for wireless provision. And so where we need to shore up, especially because time is of the urgency here, where we need to shore up immediately is in the wireline provision. And so especially regarding pole attachments. So that's to me, as I perceive it, the biggest issue. And so that's where the focus has been. It is not that I'm opposed to wireless at all. It's just that we're in pretty good shape as far as the regulatory aspect toward wireless. And so it's the wireline that we need to worry about.
If you'd like to learn more about this topic, you can find it at the John Locke Foundation's Locker Room blog. The blog entry is titled, Legislators Consider Ways to Encourage Broadband Expansion into Unserved Parts of NC. The author is John Sanders. He is Senior Fellow in Regulatory Studies and Research Editor at the John Locke Foundation. John, thanks so much.
Thanks, Mitch.